Let's talk a bit about those tea parties again for a second, because I think that it's interesting, and one of the important things about your book, The Family, and we talked about it on this program, was the connection you tie between business interests and these Christian right interests. It's not all just about Bible, it's also about profits. And you make that case very strongly. Today, in the rhetoric that you're talking about, in the discussion, particularly the discussion taking part in the sort of progressive world, there's this tendency to say, it's fascism on the rise, but fascism of the kind of KKK hooded sort, not the economic agenda. And maybe we're closing ourselves off to important information and also important connections we could make or understandings we need to have about who these people are.
Yeah, well, when we immediately leap to the idea that everyone in these movements is racist, and I recognize I'm sounding like one of the right-wing pundits, they're not all racist, but they're not. They're not all white, and they're really not when you spend time with these things. But more importantly, you know, a lot of these folks are coming from a place of genuine hurt, right? That's always important. We in the left should recognize suffering. These people, a lot of working class, poor, and so on. I was speaking to a friend who's a great progressive journalist the other day. Says, you know, the right wing that's organizing the Tea Parties is trying to convince these people that the folks in Washington aren't like them. They're not, you know, they're not. They had good educations, they had resources. So these people are starting and almost with a progressive diagnosis of the situation. They say, hey, democracy is not functioning. Things aren't working. I'm not being taken care of. And then there's a turn that we on the left are ignoring. How do you take that progressive diagnosis and turn it toward the problem is more health care? The problem is
deficits.
Yeah, exactly. And we're not paying attention to the ways in which, as you said, religion and economics converge to do that. Religion does a lot of that work for them. I don't think we pay attention enough. You know, all the anti-tax groups, they were all at the Values Voters Summit. They see free markets as a religious issue. And we on the left need to understand that they see that too if we're really going to have a good response. And talk to all the people, not the leaders, but the rank and file, who, you know, in another world would be out there demonstrating for single payer.
Well, why has the left had such a hard time tapping into that same sense of hurt and fury?
I think for all the reasons that the right says. It's arrogant, it's smug. You know, when I look at, unfortunately, when I look at some of the leftist responses to the Tea Parties that sort of say, let's find somebody saying something dumb. Ha ha, that's funny. You know, well, you know, I've seen some of this stuff. You know, someone sticks a microphone and the face of someone who's come there in a wheelchair to Washington because they're afraid of this, and this person says something silly like, you know, hands off my Medicare or something like this. You're laughing at someone in a wheelchair who feels like their health is threatened. Is this a leftist position? This is confirming everything. And they look at this stuff. They look at this rhetoric. And it's confirming everything they thought about the left. And after that, it's shut down. You can't talk. You know, after you've mocked somebody who's hurting, they're not going to listen to you again. And it's important to remember a lot of these folks are never going to listen. But there are those out there who I think, you travel in fundamentalist churches, you go to fundamentalist churches, a lot of fundamentalist churches in America, you say, do you think everyone in America should have guaranteed health care? I think the majority of people would always say, oh yes, absolutely. You say, you put it in these other terms, but I don't want socialism. Well, there's some education that needs to happen here, but it's not going to happen by making fun of these folks.
You seem like you have a kind of respect for the way the right churches have organized.
Right now, that people are going to hate me for saying this. Right now, that's where the democratic action is. It's not AstroTurf. There's a lot of AstroTurf. It's funded from the top. There's a lot of, I mean, these corporate interests love this. This is terrific. At the same time, you go and spend time with these people. There's a lot of people going out and saying, hey, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to talk to all my friends and I'm going to explain the issues. I'm going to explain what I learned from Glenn Beck. They're reading. I mean, just look at the bestseller list. It's all right-wing books. And leftists have always scratched their heads over this. Well, these people want to read. They want to get informed. So they're doing all this work. No one's particularly speaking to them. Nobody's organizing them. It's, you know, the sad history of the left is that the Christian right has picked up where the long, ailing labor movement long ago left off.
The left wrote a lot of books about the right.
We do, that's true, and I'm guilty of that myself. And instead of organizing, we write books and say, look at them, they're terrible, and so on. And you know, there's much to lament. but there's also much to understand. You know, there is a, you know, with defense of my own book, there is a place to be said for writing books about the right and understanding them. That work, you know, just at the very fact that everyone I've told since I came back from the Values Voters Summit, I said, you know, the so-called prayer warriors, the people who are organizing what they call spiritual war, intercessory prayer, almost all Latina and African American, everyone shocked because they were so certain that this gathering was all white. And so, look, something's going on here, and we can pat ourselves in the back for having the right ideas, or we can go out and find out what they're doing and say, look, there's another way to do this.
Jeff Sharlet, great as ever. The Family, the secret fundamentalism at the heart of American power. The book is still available. You can get information at our website, and I hope we'll get you back again soon.
Thanks, Laura.
GRITtv.org for more information on Jeff and his books. Thanks for watching.